So apparently it is October, and that means it's Orctober, which also means that I accidentally, I did not plan this, accidentally picked the probably best time ever to finish my orc army. Now, when I say finish my orc army, I don't mean that I will never touch this again. Obviously, there is still room for improvements. I have actually filled the space up with some units that aren't orcs, but fitting for various reasons. Because I definitely want to add a little bit of stuff here and there. Anyway, because orcs are something that is present in every single fantasy setting, and you probably can't have enough orcs. So the reason I actually started to collecting them was because before I started getting into Warhammer, I wanted to play D&D or other tabletops, but I wanted to do it with these cool miniatures on the table because it feels so cool to have miniatures on the table and move them and have like a little board game, but a lot cooler because it's tabletop and pen and paper and so on and on. And it's something you create yourself, so yeah. And I did see that in the second issue of Stormbringer you would get some orcs with spears, and then in another issue you would get some smaller orcs, and then there were these archers that looked so cool, and yeah, suddenly I have around 700 points of orcs. So that is the start of it. I definitely want to add some kind of cavalry to them at some point, and I have just the kit that I want to look out for, but before I add some more stuff to it, I want to finish some of my unfinished projects. But now, without further ado, let's begin introducing the showcase. So first off, the model that started it all, my second ever painted model, is this killer boss with his Stabgrot, or Pixgrot, how it is called in German. And I think the name that I wrote up for him was... I actually totally forgot. I just know his name is Stich Stich Kringel. Yeah, so for that. Now, one thing that you will notice is this is not Citadel paint. My first models were actually painted with paints from a brand called Kruel. They come in two variants. The ones that I used were from this year. And as you can see, this green right here is not the same green that ended up on the figures. Maybe it's because they were grey at the start. I have not primed my first models, but this here looks just so much lighter. The problem with these paints is they are very, very thick. Even if you thin them down, they will just look not so pretty, especially not on skin. The ones that you get in pots are a lot better for miniature painting, but overall you should use real miniature paint. He was really fun because he had a lot of details, and yeah, it was the first time drawing something more colorful, whereas my Knight Arcanum model just was silver white. In my opinion, actually kind of beginner friendly. I mean, white is a difficult color to paint, but yeah. So he was the very first leader model that I got my hands on. Next up, we have the Gut Rippers. And yeah, I remember being so happy that I could grab this here. So as you can see, some of them are purple and some of them are green. My idea was to have actually some mixed color variants. I wanted to have different skin tones in the army, and to a certain degree I managed to do that. I wanted to have some violet, some green, and some brown. Actually, I wanted to paint the Hogwarts slivers brown, but I didn't end up doing that, and ultimately decided to stick with green skin for most of the army. And not to say that I will never paint an orc purple again, but I know that I wasn't too pleased with them. I think the first thing I did was painting the skin, and the problem is I once again used non-miniature paint on them, which resulted in a very shiny look. And then these were models that I had lying around for days and days and weeks and never touching them again. The green ones I finished pretty early, but the purple ones I just didn't like too much. So yeah, that is that, but you always gotta try. My latest attempt with purple that I have already showed you in the vlog turned out a lot better, I think. My absolute favorite model of the bunch, which I will always treat as the commander. No matter what they say, yeah, this is the real commander, but for me, it is Gargor the One-Eyed. Because I just love how he has an eye patch and also a shield with an eye patch. It looks so cool. This is what I would always encourage you to do. Make up some stupid lore, give some stupid names. It will make the army, it will make your hobby feel a lot more fun in general. Now, I overcame this issue of not wanting to paint my purple skins because I told myself before I can paint the next models, I had to finish those. And the next models that I got myself were the Bolt Boys. These guys just look so cool. I really wanted to paint them up because these armor designs, they are really cool, and the leftover bits ended up being recycled for some kit bashes. So helmets, these guns, yeah, just some really cool stuff. These models were actually the first that I painted with the Citadel paint green. Maybe either those or the Hogwarts scissors, I'm not sure, but these were among the first. You can still see there's still paint from Kruel on there, but I think for things like clothing, these kind of paints that aren't really fit for miniatures, they look alright. Like, if you compare this to the other paint job here, you can obviously see there are more pigments and stuff. They don't look so smooth, but you don't necessarily need your miniatures to look smooth. And here is the leader of the Manscurable Boys. He's reloading his gun, his crossbow. I must say, these things were really fiddly to build, and one thing that I'm kinda scared about is these were also models. Every model that I showed you up until now was either a push-fit model or a model that I had to glue with Yuho glue, and that is not the best thing to build your miniatures, but so far they hold. I hope they continue to hold. These models in general, they just look so cool to me, and I really could try myself out here. It makes me wonder if I should return using some of the unusable, some of the not so good paints, let's call them not so good paints, because you can achieve something with them. Like, for example, if you compare these shields, these models that I made are by no means perfect, but this first shield I messed up, while these ones, I don't know if you can see it so good on the camera, but they look pretty clean for what they are, or for what they were made with. But maybe it's also because the red was one of the best colors of this bunch. Next up we have the Hopgrid slivers, and I have 2 squads of those. And this here actually contains my very first kit bash. It is a very simple one. This guy here. The Hopgrid sliver pack contains 2 different captains. One is this one, which I actually built twice, one time with and one time without the helmet. I wanted this group to be mostly without helmet, to have these wild orcs. But one of the sprues was actually damaged. The foot from this fella here was missing. So I had the idea to use the prophesis, or however you called it, from the leftover bit of the captain, cut up the leg here, and yeah, make him run around like that. He's just a regular guy, but he has lost his foot. And quite literally, he lost his foot. It wasn't molded with him. And yeah, I ended up to give him this little build. And it are these little stories that are created when you kit bash. So you should definitely do that, even if it's just something silly. These guys were really kind of fun to paint, at least the first bunch. The second bunch, it took a lot longer for me to finish them. These here were done during my first year of doing this, while I finished those during the vlogs that I'm currently doing. Now I still have to re-glue them, because as you can see, he's kind of fiddly here. He's not really in a secure position. He's often just bent over. Again, this is Yoo-hoo glue, not the Citadel plastic one. Again, this is a mixture of Citadel paints, Orc Flesh, Lead Belcher, Retributor armor, the stuff you got in the 4th Stormbringer issue. And one thing I must say is I'm really happy with the results of this skull. It looks more vibrant on camera than it actually is, but just this little tone, this tone of this old skull here, it just worked. And I'm happy because this works. I'm happy this worked. Again, the red here, it is heavily pigmented, much more. I don't know if you can see the differences on camera so good. Obviously here I actually used Agrex Earthshade. I shaded these miniatures, they look a lot better in terms of if you look close up, but on the battlefield, if you can still see a difference, of course, but it just works. You can paint them badly or paint them a lot better. On the tabletop, it doesn't really matter as much, as long as you're having fun and you're pleased with the results. I'm doing the comparison shot here just in case. I could still just use Agrex Earthshade over the old ones, I'd say. I also didn't paint in details like the teeth and the toenails and stuff. I could go back over them whenever I feel like it. For now, I'm just happy they are finished and usable on the tabletop. The same obviously goes for my second killer bus. This is the second one that I painted purple. Not the best lighting. Obviously, better paints more details, actual shading. It's really cool. You should definitely keep some of your first miniatures you've ever painted, and across the time that you have started to paint, because you will definitely improve. Don't compare yourself to the really good painters out there, because especially if, like me, you're just starting out, you don't need to paint Golden Demon level, you don't need to participate in Golden Demon. Just paint whatever you want and have fun with it. Try out different things, like different color schemes and such. Because even if you have a unified color scheme for your army, it's always good to have a few models to stand out. They will just mix with the rest and be naturally part of it. While the Prothesis guy is my first real kit bash, this year is the first kit bash where I actually used multiple kits and leftover bits, so this year is actually a little scratch build. I told the story already. I was kinda looking at the issue with the Swamp Caller Shaman, and I still think it's a very cool model. However, I didn't feel like buying an issue with just one miniature in it. I didn't hold too true to that later on. I'm now fine with that price tag, for better or worse. But I still wanted to have a mage for my orc army, and so I looked at the models, looked at the Potrod, and tried to emulate as much details as possible on this extra base that I have laying around here. This was actually gifted to me by someone at the GW store. I really thank you for that. So I added I used the banner that was left, added some cloth, cutted bits and pieces together, and then just painted it. Not everything worked out. I think some bit is missing actually. Maybe there was another knife hanging here from the other skull, but I don't really care. Even got a little stick. The only thing that I couldn't fit on the base was this little pot here. But I'm actually glad it didn't fit, because it doesn't really work with the rest. It does not have details. It's just a little funny gimmick that I put up with him on display whenever I feel like it. The story with this guy is he was thrown out from his Hopgrot squads because he kept messing up stuff, and as a sort of revenge he uses grenades to put his potions in. I used those as potions because this was the closest thing I had to something that looked like a bottle. And now sometimes he just gives someone a bottle that is just filled with gunpowder and chemical shit that just kills them when they drink. Since I bought the first issue twice to do this kit bash, I had a second Kruelboyz, but also a second Knight Arcanum. And here I used leftover bits from the Gut Rippers to make this arm. This shoulder piece should be from a miniature of the month, the Crude Hunter. Now this is actually the very first model that I ever primed. I just didn't know where this shoulder pad was supposed to go, but the model looked good without it anyway, so I just put it away. This is also why he has a spear, because the God Rippers obviously have spears. He uses this as a staff, and the idea was I call him Imposter Arcanum. He had the brilliant idea to dress up as a Stormcast Eternal unit to sneak into the enemy lines. But because he doesn't look female, and because he smells, he was instantly discovered. Nevertheless, this is a fun model. Something that will definitely bring a chuckle at some tables. And it was the first small step to more advanced kitbashing. Actually, I think this here is a lot for a beginner. Because I couldn't use green stuff because I didn't know green stuff exists, or I didn't have green stuff. I didn't venture into this part. And so I just grabbed whatever I had at my disposal. Which is something you should definitely do no matter what kind of kitbash you try to accomplish. Or if you don't really have an idea, sometimes it's great to work with limited resources. By the way, this here is a helmet from the Xandir Truthseeker warband. I didn't like the helmet to be on my warband, so I just used a head swap, and this helmet, because it was also damaged, ended up on the base as decoration. And with that, we're actually done for the units that could legally be used in Age of Sigmar. Now again, I believe in the sentiment that all models can be used in every game if it fits. Every miniature game is model agnostic, obviously, unlike you're attending in GW tournaments or whatever, but I'm not going to do that. So I put on some extra units that we're going into detail soon, and one of them are actually Orcs. But first of all, another miniature of the month. This was cool because I could try out Agric's Earthshade to make bone structures again, and I really like the result. There are paints like Skeleton Horde that are made for this kind of effect. This here is also suitable if you don't want to buy a specific paint just for that. He was really cool because he was he should really be the last green orc that I have ever painted. Well, aside from these guys here, but yeah, he was the last model that I acquired for this specific line and from the GW line. Who knows, maybe this will remain that last model for a long time. I actually use him as a hero for One Page Rules Quest, the Age of Fantasy version. And the lore about this guy is that he was thrown out by his group once again because he was too weak. And then he accidentally found a pyramid from the Saurians and awakened the Snake Men. He trained them because his battle style was much more agile, not fitting the rest of the more brutal units from his army. He trained the Snakemen trained him, and he eventually returned to his old army, killed their leader, took the position, and now we had a bunch of lizardmen and goblins that would continue to beef with each other until they split up. So some of the Saurians saw him as the chosen one because he freed them from their pyramids. But others just thought this is silly, and so it ended up how it is, and now they are split, and he's sometimes with some of his folks out there venturing, getting some gold and food. He's probably be slotted in and out of this and the Saurian army, though I still have to build the Saurian army, so we will see how that will go. Now the last orcs that I have are the Orctober, and these I actually painted black. Not because there are black orcs, because black orcs are actually just really dark green skinned, but because I'm going to use them in my own game as knights. I definitely wanted to have something that looks like a knight for an orc army, which is the reason why I picked them. They just looked so cool until I realized that these helmets, they really are monstrosities that fit into the vibe of the units that I want to build and use for my game. I built half of them with lances, half of them with swords. There are no real changes in rules. You just have one weapon type for Orctober in Age of Sigmar 4.0, and in one-page rules you can run them as 5 models per unit. So this also works with WYSIWYG. I like what you see is what you get, but I also am not offended to use something that is not what there, as you can see. Obviously, these are the units where I put in the most work and where I have the most experience with, because these are some of the latest models that I have painted, and you can see all the experience that I gathered over these almost 2 years that I am doing this hobby by now. I always knew I either wanted to make their armor gold, because they are rivaled with the Stormcast Eternals, or rusty, and I decided to go rusty because the rest of my army wears worn out rusty armor. And while these here are technically Ironjawz, so they usually can't be fielded unless you buy a bunch of other Ironjaw models to form a regiment, I think it should be okay to use them anyway, or proxy them with Gut Rippers because the base size is the same. And again, Gut Rippers also don't have rules that say you must have spears, so just use these if they look cooler to you and you need something in your army. Just this combination of red and brown and dirt and rust, I just really like this here. And the reason I painted them is because I have my little Ghouls here and they have the very same painting scheme. I updated their bases to be more colorful. And I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it really helps to make them pop more, because now the base color is something that is not the same color as the most prominent colors of the model. You should definitely have a color that fits the color scheme but is not too present in the final product. So here, these are not part of the armor, these are just here to be showcased, but these guys here I would run in a different army or in different warbands depending on how this game evolves. So these fit together and these also belong to them. I just like to have multiple usage for my miniatures. And last but not least, we have the Smurfs. So this is a unit that I technically can't run in Age of Sigmar because these guys actually have different weapon rules. But then again, you can use these guys with the nets in both units, and also the leader can be used in both units, and he does not have a bow just like the others, and the banner bearer and so on. So if I should ever use them as a Gloomspite Gits army, I would decide whether or not what unit they would represent and then go along with it. The reason I wanted to grab them was because I wanted to have another ranged combat unit. Actually, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them now. But yeah, I just wanted to have this because this is what I meant in an early episode. Stormbringer was such a cool line of magazines. You got this whole bunch of 20 goblins and all that in just one issue. I'm really sure when they do this with Spearhead, I don't hope they do, but I could imagine them to just put them into 2 or 3 different issues. I mean, probably just 2, because 10 for each sounds fair, right? The cool thing with them was the issue before they were added through the magazine. I had the Vigilers from the Stormcast Army, and they were very fiddly to build. It was really frustrating. But these guys here, you just had the body, you put on the arms, and that's it. And look at how many different weapon options you had. This was really fun. I built some with bows and some with close combat weapons, but ultimately I decided, because I wanted to use them for one-page rules, and one-page rules has rules for a squad of 10 shooters, I think, and then 5 close combat units each. So I just picked them up and had a total of 3 units. Or maybe it was the other way around. 1 unit of 10 close combat units and then 10 archers. The point is, this was a really cool set for one-page rules as well. So I really won a lot. Another one that I want to mention here is this guy here. I kitbashed the bow with a shield. I just tried out a little bit of stuff to make them stand out more. Yeah, these are the Smurfs because I used blue skin on their paint to differentiate them a bit from green from the rest of the orcs here. I first wanted to paint them green, but then I talked with my brother about it and he was like, no, paint them blue, this would look way cooler. And he's right, they now have so much character. And I actually picked up some more goblins, which will be another topic for the future. It suddenly looks so empty in here. I have Scraggot, the King Smurf, as I will call him, Moloch the Mighty, a bunch of Squigs, and the Squig Riders. I should probably save this for a future episode, but this is one of my most favorite kit bashes. Just look at this psychopath. He's riding on a wild beast that is barely controllable. And he's grinning like an idiot. It's like someone who really wants to punch you in the face in the most annoying way possible. And he swings a weapon that is absolutely not suitable for this kind of battle. You should not use such a weapon in this situation, but you can still do that. And it is in character because these are goblins. They are silly. They are stupid. And yes, I painted him green, but the others, they will all get different skin tones. They are all from different tribes. That is the story behind them. I worked with green stuff here, but more on him in the future. So yeah, that is my orc army with some guests here and there thrown into the bunch. Now the Stormbringer issue had some more models that I didn't grab, like the big crossbow thingy. I don't know what's the name of it. And also the big monster at the very, very end of Stormbringer. Because I just like my infantry units so much. It's probably not so good if you want to play Age of Sigmar, but as I said more often and often again, I just want to paint what I like. And just want to build what I like. I don't want to build a list that is efficiently. Which probably is also because I currently don't have a certain place and a method where and who I could play Age of Sigmar with. I mostly play one-page rules with my brother and that's it. But for now, that is enough. And one-page rules, as well as other games, give me enough freedom to be able to do this here. So it's not all too bad. Make the hobby into what you want it to be. The cool thing about this army is that while it was not fully planned to be the way it is, it has given me some models with cool opportunities. It is definitely my practice army. My Stormcasts look way better, but I could try out new stuff here. Orcs, you can't go wrong with orcs. Orcs are always cool. And just seeing this evolution, it's just really, really cool. Now, if you are still in the mood for Orctober and you haven't seen the video, I'm pretty sure most of Trent's people know this video already, but there's this guy whose name I once again forgot, but I will put a picture right here again. Over the last days, this guy started to build an orc cavalry unit. I forgot the name. What is the English word? And it just looks so cool. It was so fun to follow along the journey of this scratch build. And while I still only have built one scratch build unit, I definitely do want to try and do some more in the future. I actually have an idea in mind what to do next, but this might get shoved away until I get the time or really, really into the mood of doing it. So, for now, I wish you a good evening, and we will see us in the future with something cool, I hope.